Hi everyone, and welcome to this really, hopefully quite interesting video where I'm going to be going through what my business is. So, hold on a second, let's recap. In my last video, I talked about the fact I'm quitting my job and the fact that it's the biggest, most scariest thing I've probably ever done before. And what I promised is that in a future video, so this one here that you're listening to, I go through what my business will be, what I'm planning it to be at least right now, and then how I'm going to be running the business too, and some links where you can go and find out a little bit more and all of that type of great stuff. So in this video, I'm hoping to explain to you what my business is, what I'm going to be doing, when I'm going to be doing it, how I'm going to be running my business, absolutely everything. So buckle up. I think this is going to be a really interesting video, at least for me, and then hopefully you enjoy it too. Just a quick ask before we dive into the video. If you can like this video and also subscribe to my channel, that will really help not only boost this specific video, but also help the YouTube algorithm know that this is some kind of interesting content that people might like. And once it knows that, it will suggest my video to more people, and then more people will find it, and then more people will know about my business, and then the whole thing can grow a little bit more. So if you could should just be down there, just like that'd be great. And then also subscribe if you're interested in this type of content. I'm going to be plugging absolutely everything to do with my business onto this YouTube channel. Every learning I make, every mistake I make, how I run the business, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that in the video itself. But I'm going to be sharing absolutely everything. So I think it's worth subscribing. So hopefully you think so too. So smash the subscribe button, please. Thanks. So what is my business? I'm going to be starting a company called Cluster Consulting. I believe that there are multiple different clusters of insights. So I think if you take insights from over here and then over here, and you kind of marry them and you mash them together, it will create, and I've seen it because I've done it, it will create award-winning work. It will create massive impact for a business. And I know this because I've been there. I've done these things for other people's organizations before. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to be starting my own organization to teach others and kind of consult others about how they can do it too. So my aim is to be helping organizations in the public sector, the private sector, and the not-for-profit sector, the charity kind of third sector, to uncover what these insights are within their business and also execute against those too. So wait, let's back up a second. What is Cluster Consulting? Cluster Consulting is a radically transparent consulting and marketing company. And we'll dive into what that means in this video. Alright, so as I said, Cluster Consulting is a radically transparent consulting and marketing company. I believe that there are insights that we can glean from multiple different sectors, from multiple different user groups, and we can smash those together. And when we do that, it creates market-moving change within that industry. I know this because I've seen it firsthand. I know this because I've done it on projects. I've won awards thanks to stuff like this. And so what I want to do is set up an organization to go and help others figure out what their version of that is. And we're going to get into this in the video. I personally have a history of driving results across a whole range of different industries. You might have seen from some of my other YouTube videos where I have the slides and when we go through everything that I've worked in stuff like the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry. I've worked in tech, as in Google. I've worked in sort of news and media organizations too. I've also worked in finance and banking. I've also worked in the public sector or the government sector as well. And in all of those industries, I've managed to take elements of what I'm hoping to offer as services within this business and created real change for both the companies themselves that I was working for as an employee or within the industry themselves too. I mentioned at the start that Cluster Consulting is going to be a radically transparent consulting and marketing company. So I think it's fairly known what is consulting as a management consulting and what is marketing. And we can dive into those pieces in a segment in a minute. But what does the radically transparent piece mean? Radical transparency is a thought process, is a way of working where you take a knowledge first approach. So you openly share absolutely everything that you can in terms of learnings, in terms of decision-making processes, in terms of absolutely everything. Most organizations that I've worked with have had an element of radical transparency. Perhaps in a really well-organized team, there might be transparency within that team about, say, who might be wanting to go for promotion and what that might look like, or if I was working with a specific client, what some of the goals for that client might be. And, those were shared rather openly within the team. However, all of the organizations that I'm aware of have elements of lack of transparency. And I don't necessarily mean this as a negative thing. I believe that most business to date has an element of lack of transparency. I think it's how we've done business so far. So for example, large organizations have offshore bank accounts somewhere that are super secret and only a few people know about, or they might have certain tax codes that they use, or they might, for example, be paying via third-party organizations and politicians or something like that in order to get favorable results for their business. I believe that all of those things are actively harmful. As a final example of this, it's when organizations are underhand and perhaps they are not fully transparent with their employees and people who work for them. I think this is actively harmful for an organization, and it creates this weird tension between an individual employee and a group of employees forming an organization. For example, you might have a management structure in which only certain elements of how to get a promotion are known and perhaps others aren't. So there might be some underhand dealing, or there might be certain favoritism which ends up giving boosts to some employees and not others. And that's typically what I've seen organizations doing. And I cannot stress this enough. I think it's utter waste of time. I do not think we as a society in 2021, in a modern age, should be accepting these business practices. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting we should go back to communism or something like that. I do believe capitalism is an okay structure to work in. However, I think this sort of late stage capitalism phase that we're in now, where individual humans are being exploited, just isn't sustainable at all. I don't want to be part of that. So what I mean by radical transparency is I'm going to try and take it to the absolute extreme. Absolutely everything that I'm legally allowed to share about my business will be shared online. So please expect to see stuff like Google Docs and links to Google Drive and Google Sheets with exactly all of my finances on them. I want to be very open and very transparent because I want to be able to prove once and for all that you can indeed build a successful business whilst taking radical transparency to the extreme. Perhaps this makes my business fail, and that's an outcome that I'm okay with. I'd rather my business didn't fail, but I'd rather know that in order to build a successful business in the modern society, you do need an element of underhandedness and you do need an element of secrecy, because I guess I'm willing to bet a part of my career that you don't have to do that. And I guess we'll see whether I'm right or not. Okay, so the other part of my business, the actual services that I'm going to be selling or taking to market, are the management consulting angle and the marketing angle. So let's take those one at a time. Firstly, the management consulting angle. I have absolutely always chased the hard problems. I cannot, and maybe this is a flaw in how my brain works, but I cannot turn up to work in the morning and have boring, not interesting stuff to work on. I need my brain to be working at 100% and beyond capacity at all times, and I'm hyper aware that that puts me at risk of burnout, and that's why I've made other videos on this channel about burnout, and you should certainly check those out if you're someone like me. Because I revel in solving the hard problem, management consulting has typically been an industry in which hard problems needed solving. And I've also been consultant before, so I have a range of skill sets that I can bring to market and also train others as well, so that they are at the same standard and able to provide services in the same way that I am personally. So this is things like digital transformation, value proposition development, business strategy, or just generally tough questions that need solving, is absolutely something that I want to spend my life doing. So why wouldn't I offer those as services? The other angle to this is sales and marketing. I've been a product marketer before and I've launched products across the world. What I find the most interesting coming from the tech space is that often once the product or service has been built, even if it's been built in a sort of user-first mindset, so throughout the entire time perhaps users have been actively involved and we've gotten feedback loops with real people and real humans who are using the software, that's amazing. Getting that feedback is great during the development cycle. However, I've seen it far too often now across all of the industries that I mentioned earlier, where a team will say, okay, right, this product or service is ready to go, and it will be shipped and it will go live into production, and then that's it. That's kind of where the buck stops, at least in most of the industries that I've talked about. So I think there's a lot of work I can offer the world in terms of the sales and marketing approach. So just because you have an amazing product doesn't mean that you have the users, and it doesn't mean that users know that you exist. having led multiple B2B and B2C sort of go-to-market campaigns for FTSE 100 and FTSE 10 companies before, I'm going to be packaging up my strategic storytelling skills to help drive business results. So part of what I love is leaving the world in a slightly better place than I found it. So I'm going to be offering to empower the in-house teams in which I'm working with by training and upskilling as I go along. So not only can I help provide really great outcomes at a time in which I'm working with an organization or brand, but in the longer term too, it leaves them in a slightly better place, which is absolutely great. The third section or third segment of offerings for my business will be around agile business transformation. I've been working within the agile methodology for years now, and at all times, not only have I been working with individual teams and projects for which I am very happy to offer that level of support going forward too, but more than that, in terms of the agile transformation of an entire brand or an entire organization, this is often something which I have found personally, having been in-house and led these types of transformations previously, it's really helped with things like innovation and boosting quality of the overall products and services which we were shipping as an in-house team, and fundamentally improving the happiness of those employees. So offering that as a service, part of my future business too. What are the type of customers in which I'm looking to be working with? I'm not really fussy, as you might expect, but I do have some examples. For example, I would love to work with organizations which are sort of pre and post launch as a company to help them have really strong, clear foundations as they start building their business and building their brand. I also have experience working with challenger brands as well, and getting more done with less money, using that as an opportunity to establish themselves inside of the market and take on some of the larger, more established competitors. Finally, I'm very happy to work with established brands as well, having worked for Fortune 10 and Fortune 100 companies and help them with their branding and help them with their marketing and management consulting work. I'm very interested in offering those services there as well. So there we have it. This is Cluster Consulting. It is a work in progress, and I'm going to be actively sharing that as I go along. It's probably going to take me a while before I can win something myself. Be actively sharing that journey of bidding for work and applying for things and how to build pitch decks and all of that type of great stuff as I go along, because I'm going to be learning those things and I'm going to be honing those skills. So why wouldn't I share them on YouTube with you? It takes me another few minutes to be able to film and quickly edit and throw something up on YouTube. So it's not a massive pain for me to do that. And it also helps me as well. And this is the kind of selfish angle to this. It helps me understand and helps me really refine what my learnings are so that I can become also better at this. Whilst I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart and sharing it for free, do not worry, I don't have any courses to sell you or anything like that. I'm doing this because it might be useful to somebody else, because I would have found it useful before going through that learning myself. So yeah, there we have it. That's Cluster Consulting, a radically transparent consulting and marketing company. Hopefully you'll join me for the journey. I think it's going to be very interesting and we'll see how it goes. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day. Bye.